What's up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. These are my Draftkings MMA picks for UFC Vegas 24. And yeah, we have 12 fights on the card. I'm really looking forward to it. I think this is a very good card from a Draftkings perspective, and can't wait to break it down. But before we get started and get into the video, if you guys can leave a like, subscribe if you're not subscribed yet so you not miss out on my other content. The live stream Friday, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Betting content as well. Tons of stuff going on each and every week, so make sure you subscribe so you not miss out. And also want to give a big thanks to everybody that did sign up on the Patreon. Released the new advanced stat model courtesy of Uncle Weezy last week, and also implemented the new optimizer in there as well. So added a ton of value to the MMA premium package. Had a ton of people sign up. So thank you guys for that. It does allow me to, do stuff like that, add to my content, make it better. So thank you guys for all signing up. It really does help out a ton. So with all that out of the way, let's get into the card here, starting with the fight doesn't go to decision lines, see what fights we need to target this week. And up top, we have Alhassan versus Malcoon, minus 285, fight doesn't go to decision. And I'm really high on Alhassan this week, and I know it's hard to trust the guy. The guy's 35 years old. He's coming up a weight class, but this is absolutely a fight where he shouldn't just win the fight. He should win the fight within the first 20 seconds. The guy hits extremely hard, one of the hardest hitters you'll see, and we saw Phil Haas go out there in Malcoon's last fight, knocked him out with the very first punch that landed. It looked like it barely landed, and Malcoon just fell down. So, man, if Alhassan does not beat this guy and beat him in a devastating fashion, I really have concerns about him going forward. But you got to play Alhassan no matter what. 9,300, it's not a big deal there. If you want to take some shots on Malcoon, I guess you can go there. He has to survive that early storm that Alhassan's going to bring, but if Alhassan does not get that first round knockout, then Malcoon can definitely take over. I just see it finishing early. I see it finishing in the first round. I'm going to have a ton of Alhassan. I don't love it because it's hard to be confident in him, but this is absolutely a fight he should win, and should win in, like I said, a devastating fashion early in the fight. So next we have Romanov versus Espino, a fight that I'm going to be very high on. I think this is a heavyweight fight that has a ton of upside. The thing I don't like is the price of this fight. 8,800 for Romanov, 7,400 for Espino. I honestly think this should be lying closer to like an 8,200, 8,000 matchup, because I really have no clue what's going to happen. Both guys, great wrestlers. Both guys, great grapplers. Both guys, a lot of power. They're heavyweights. And I don't know. I think whoever gets on top is going to have success. I just don't know who's going to get on top. So I'm going to have both sides. Obviously, both guys have potential to get a ton of takedowns. They have potential to get a ton of control time, and they have potential to get a finish. So I'm going to be playing both sides. A little bit of a lean to Espino just based off the fact that he's 1,400 cheaper for some reason, but I will have a ton of Romanov as well, and I do think Romanov will be one of the popular plays on the slate this week. Now we have Anthony Burchak versus Tony Gravely, minus 180. Fight doesn't go to decision, a fight that I could see it going to decision. I could see Gravely just, wrestling Burchak for 3 rounds, getting control time, getting takedowns. I'm going to be really high on the Gravely side this week, and we'll talk about it a little bit more. As far as Burchak, if he wins, it's probably by submission, so I'll sprinkle a little bit, but the majority of my ownership is going to be on that Gravely side there. But I could see an instance where this fight does go the distance. And then Bartosz Fabinsky versus Gerald Meerschaert, minus 110. Fight doesn't go to decision. Another fight where I could see going the distance. It's all up to who wins the fight. If Meerschaert wins, it's going to be a submission win. If Bartosz Fabinsky wins, it's going to be a decision win. I don't see really any other outcome outside of that. So definitely a fight I'm very high on targeting. In all 4 of these fights, I'm going to have a lot of exposure to all 4 of them. But yeah, I do like... I like Fabinsky quite a bit. At the same time, you got to play Meerschaert as well because I think he's very live for that sub. So, like I said, all 4 of these fights, I do think you should be targeting for the more important fights on the slate. All right, getting into our core plays here. First one I do want to talk about is Tony Gravely. Mentioned it a little bit, but this guy is someone that's going to come out here. He's going to get takedowns, and we talk about it each week, this new scoring system for DraftKings, and we definitely see it week in, week out. Like these wrestlers, these grapplers that are going to get takedowns, control time, it adds up. It adds up, and I do think Gravely is somebody that can definitely score a ton. I think his ceiling's very high, multiple takedowns, lots of control time, possible finish at 9,400. The most expensive on the slate, and for a very, very good reason. I think it's a good matchup for him. But with that said, Burchak, if he wins, it's going to be by submission. Decent ground game does Burchak have. Gravely has been submitted 5 times out of his 6 losses, so I'd be a little careful here. It's not a play I'd go 100% in on, but I do think you should be pretty highly exposed to Tony Gravely. Maybe hedge a little bit with some Burchak at 6,800, but I do think Gravely should more than often than not is going to come out here and dominate this fight. and score quite a bit. So give me Gravely, give me him at 9,400. I like it quite a bit. Bartosz Fabinsky, speaking of the new DraftKings scoring system, another guy that can definitely implement a style that's going to score very well, going against Gerald Meerschaert. So Fabinsky, a little bit of a sample here. I think it's like 5 or 6 fight sample. He is averaging 7.08 takedowns per 15 minutes. Meerschaert does have a 46% takedown defense. So I think he's going to get takedowns. I think he's going to get control time. If he does not get submitted, I think he puts up a very, very, very high score here. But with that said, I think he has a good chance of getting submitted as well. So this is a fight where I'm going to be about 50-50 on. I think you're going to want to have this fight because, like I said earlier, there's going to be 2 outcomes in this fight. Either Fabinsky gets a pretty dominant decision, being on top for the majority of the fight, or Meerschaert is able to lock up a sub. I think both those outcomes are likely, but Fabinsky is somebody that can definitely put up a huge score. If Fabinsky dominates Meerschaert for 2.5 rounds and he gets submitted in the third, Meerschaert probably doesn't score all that well. But if Fabinsky comes out here, takes down Meerschaert all 3 rounds, control time, it's going to add up. It's going to be a really big score, especially 8,300. So Fabinsky is definitely a core play, but with that said, I'm going to be playing some Meerschaert as well along with that. All right, Juan Espinos, 7,400, a core play of mine. I'm going to be playing both sides. It's just the price for me. I think this should be a closer line for sure, and you see the money line on each guy. Romanov's like -120, Espino's like +105, +110, something like that. So just looking at the money lines, this should be a closer fight, and I would personally line it like an 8,200, 8,000 matchup. So I think we're getting a ton of value on Juan Espinos, somebody that has great wrestling, great grappling, and I think he's very live in this fight. So I'm going to have a ton of Juan Espino at this price tag. You pretty much have to. On the flip side, trust me, I will have some Alexander Romanov. I think the winner of this fight scores very well, whether it's with takedowns, in a possible finish. I think a finish is very likely on either side. If Romanov gets a finish, I think it's more so like a ground and pound TKO. But if Espino wins, I can see it being a submission. So I'm playing both sides. Juan Espino, you can't ignore the price difference. Like I said, $1,400 cheaper than Romanov in what I think is a 50-50 fight. Abdul, Razak, Alhassan, 9,300. Yeah, I mean, I think he has a really high ceiling. I think he has a first-minute knockout ceiling. We saw Phil Hawes go out there and knock out Malcoon in like 20 seconds. I think Alhassan definitely has the capability to do so. And I think he has like a first-round finish floor. In 10 of his wins, he's never won outside of the first round. He has all first-round knockout wins. So if he wins, it's safe to say it's going to be in the first round. You get the 90 points, possible early win bonus as well, maybe a knockdown. I think Alhassan has a ton of upside on the slate. With that said, if he does not get that first-round knockout, I really do have concerns about him actually winning the fight because he does slow down a ton after that first round. And although Malcoon hasn't showed much, I mean, Malcoon is a brown belt in BJJ. If he is able to get those takedowns later in the fight, he could have some success. I just don't see it getting later in the fight. So give me Alhassan, 9,300, going to have a lot. Like I said earlier, it's hard to trust the guy. He's on a 2-fight losing streak. But this is absolutely a fight he should win fairly easy here. So I'm going to have a ton of Abdul, Razak, Alhassan this week. All right, getting into our GPP plays here, our tournament plays, we're going to have Alexander Romanov. Talked about him a little bit, 8,800. If he wins, he's going to get takedowns. He's going to get control time. And I think a TKO victory is very, very likely in this fight. You got to have a lot. I mean, this is a fight that's probably going to end inside the distance. And 8,800, I don't love it. But I do know that if he does win the fight, he's going to easily hit value, probably hit the 100-point mark. But yeah, I'm going to have a ton of Romanov. And like I said, I'm going to have a ton of Espino as well. I'm not going to split it 50-50. I might have a little bit more Espino just because of the price difference. But I will be very, very high on these guys. I'd be very, very surprised if the winner was not on the optimal lineup. I don't see it being like a really sloppy, boring heavyweight fight. I think it's going to be very exciting with lots of wrestling, lots of grappling from each side. And I'm going to have quite a bit of Romanov at 8,800, despite me not loving the price tag all that much. Josiah Nunez, 8,600. It's the ugliest fight on the card, the lowest level fight on the card, but I think it is somewhat important in DraftKings. So Nunez, I don't love the price as well. She has 8,600. I think this should be lined like one of those 8,100 each fights here. And you do see the line coming in on Farron, some money coming in on her. And probably for a good reason. Farron's going to have a significant height and a significant reach advantage. But Nunez, she's a finisher. When she's winning fights, she's winning by finish. And although it's against very low-level competition, she does go out there. She does come forward. She does throw a ton of volume. So maybe she does knock out Farron. I think this fight's going to be extremely low-owned because like nobody knows who these people are, and they probably don't want to play a low-level fight, but we see a lot of times where these low-level fights on DraftKings, they typically score well, and they typically score well at low ownership. So I'm going to be overexposed to this fight as a whole. I know it's ugly, but I think a stoppage win on either side is fairly likely here. Farron has been finished in 2 of her 4 losses. Nunez's 1 loss was a decision. But Farron, decent finisher herself, 67% finish rate. Neither fighter has a submission on the record, both knockouts. I could see a knockout either side. It's 8,600, going to be low owned. I think a finish is there potentially, so I'm going to be playing some Nunez. On the flip side, I will be playing some Farron, as well, as ugly as it is. Tracy Cortez, talk about the new DraftKings system, somebody that definitely fits it. Doesn't really have the finish upside as like Alhassan, as maybe a Gravely, but I do think she can score pretty decent. I think she's somewhat of a safe pick as to win as well. Getting takedowns, very good wrestler. Justine Cash has a 55% takedown defense. I think she can definitely exploit that, get some control time. Like I said, I don't think the finish is likely at all, really, but I do think with 3 rounds of wrestling control time, I do think it'll add up and she'll have a decent score. I just don't know if I'd play her over Alhassan or Gravely, but I will have some Cortez. I do think she has some decent upside there. And then Jeremy Stephens, 8,400. The co-main event, yeah, I think if Stephens wins, it's a decent chance. It's a KO. We saw Close knocked out in his last fight against Beneil Dariush. Stephens, 75% finish rate, 64% by knockout, does hit very hard. And I think Close is going to, kind of bring the fight to Stephens that Stephens wants. He's going to probably invite a war. I think this should be a really fun fight. I also think Stephens may go for some takedowns as well. We've seen a lot of close fights where he is getting takedown, not really held down all that much, but I do think Stephens can mix in those takedowns. And I think the knockout is somewhat live here. So I'm going to be targeting some Stephens. The dude hasn't won in like 5 or 6 fights, but he's been fighting some really good guys. So I think Stephens is live for a win, and I think the knockout is somewhat live as well. So I'm going to sprinkle in a little bit of Stephens at 8,400, like the price tag there. All right, getting into the live dogs, Gerald Meerschaert, 7,900. This guy is a finisher. He has like 22, 23 submissions on his record. He has a 74% submission rate, 93% finish rate overall. So it's safe to say if this guy wins, it's going to be inside the distance. Bartosz Fabinsky, he has been submitted 3 times in his 4 losses. So he's getting submitted when he's losing. And Meerschaert is going to have all the opportunities in the world to find a submission. He's going to have 15 minutes. He's going to be on his back for the majority of the fight. Maybe he can get a reversal or sweep. Maybe he can lock up something off his back. It's very, very possible. We've seen Fabinsky submitted quite a few times. So I think Meerschaert is somebody to definitely target this week. He has probably a really low floor because I can see him getting dominated for 3 rounds, getting taken down, maybe stuck on his back. But if he does win, it's going to be by submission. I don't see him knocking out Fabinsky. Don't see him winning a decision off his back. If he wins, it's going to be some type of submission. So give me Meerschaert, 7,900. I think he's very live for a sub there. Alex Munoz, he is 7,500, and this is a case where Pena, not the best takedown defense at all. Pena has a pretty poor takedown defense. I want to say it's like 54%, something like 45% takedown defense. He's a 45% takedown defense for Pena. He can be taken down. He gets taken down quite a bit. He does threaten with submissions. He has really good reversals and sweeps, so that's something I'm kind of worried about with Munoz here. But if Munoz wins, it's going to be because he gets takedowns, and it's going to be because he gets a lot of them. So 7,500, new DraftKings scoring system. He's not going to finish Pena, nothing like that. But if he does win, it's going to be because of those takedowns, control time, and it's going to add up. So I will have some Munoz. Not exactly picking him to win, but I do see a path to victory where he can win and where he can score pretty decently, especially for his price tag. Zara Farron, 7,600, talked about it a little bit. This is a fight you're probably going to want to target. It's the ugliest fight on the card. But still, I think there's a great upside for a finish here from either side. Just such a low-level fight on both sides. We've seen Farron 0-2 in the UFC, but she's fighting some decent competition. Megan Anderson, who did fight for a title. Felicia Spencer, who did fight for a title as well. And I think an interesting aspect of this fight is maybe Farron going to that ground game. I've seen Nunez taken down. I've seen her stuck off her back against very, very, very low-level opponents. So if Farron does choose to get takedowns here, I do think she can have some success. On the feet, she's going to have a massive height and reach advantage. So I don't mind Farron, 7,600. Going to be very, very low owned, and I think a finish is possible. But yeah, like I said, a very ugly fight there. And then Chase Sherman, he's going to come forward. He's going to throw volume. I like the price, 7,700, going against Andrei Arlovsky, who has been finished 11 times by strikes. And I'm not the highest on Sherman whatsoever. Very hittable guy himself. But the problem with that is Arlovsky doesn't have a knockout in a while. It's been since like 2015, 2016 since Arlovsky's had a knockout. That's like 17 or 18 fights. So could Arlovsky knock him out? Maybe. Maybe. Sherman has been knocked out a couple times before. Sherman has been knocked out 4 times. It's just not a great look not seeing Andrei Arlovsky have a knockout in just so long. So I think Sherman's a live dog for sure, just based off the volume. Possible finish. Maybe he does overwhelm Arlovsky a little bit. And like I said, Arlovsky has been knocked out a million times. So I think Sherman's definitely somebody you should look at as a live dog. Getting into the punt plays, Kelvin Gastelum, 7,100. Yeah, I'm not overly excited to play this fight as a whole on DraftKings. I think Whittaker probably does win a decision here. I don't see Whittaker going for many takedowns. I don't see a finish on the Whittaker side as well. Gastelum, he has a very, very good chin. Don't believe he's ever been knocked out. The guy can take a shot. So I see Whittaker probably winning a decision. With the significant strikes going from 0.5 to 0.4, it's hard to see Whittaker outscoring guys like Alhassan, who has that first-round knockout upside. Guys like Gravely, who has a ton of grappling upside, maybe even outscoring Cortez, who has a ton of grappling upside. I just don't think Whittaker has that same upside, so I'm not going to be playing much Whittaker, and, since it's the main event, it's going to draw a ton of ownership, so going to get a little bit different, not play much Whittaker. Maybe I'll sprinkle a little bit in. It's just hard seeing him score all that much without a finish or takedowns or control time. I just don't see any of that out of him, but I do pick him to win. As far as Gastelum, if he does win, it's probably by knockout. We've seen Whittaker knocked down quite a few times in the UFC. Whittaker has been knocked out, I believe, 2 times in his career. Maybe Gastelum does mix in a little bit of the takedowns. Whittaker has a fantastic takedown defense, get up game, ground game, all that, but maybe he does get Whittaker down a couple times. Gastelum does have some pretty good wrestling, so if I was to play anybody on this fight, it'd probably be the $2,000 savings on Gastelum, just in case there is a knockout. But Gastelum hasn't had a knockout in, I think, since 2017. So it's been a while. Kind of a long shot, kind of a pump play here, but I will be playing a little bit of Gastelum, if anything, in this fight. And then fades Lupe Godinez, 9,200. Yeah, she looks very, very good. Very, very impressive. I think she's a great prospect here going against Jessica Penne, who has not fought in like almost 4 years, who has not won in over 6 years. The problem with that is, Godinez is not going to come out here, get takedown. She's not going to get control time. I don't think she gets a finish. She has no knockouts on her record. So if she's not getting a knockout, not getting a finish, not getting takedowns, like I do think Alhassan, Gravely, Cortez are going to do, really no point in me playing her. Would be kind of surprised if she did get her first knockout. It's just not something she's done in the past. But yeah, I'm gonna take Godinez to win for sure. It's just with no grappling upside, with no really finish upside, I really don't see myself playing too much of her at 9,200. So not gonna have too much Lupe Godinez, but I do think she does win. All right, guys, just want to remind you, it's always a great time to become a member of my Patreon and receive full access to my model, the premium projections, the new optimizer, the GBP lineup percentages, my DraftKings article, and also access to Discord. Have about almost 250 people in that Discord currently. Hopefully keep adding to the community there. Just added the new advanced stats model that I went over last week with pretty much any single stat you'd ever want to see. And then also Uncle Weezy puts on there the DraftKings stats. And if you guys are FanDuel people as well, he has the FanDuel stats as well. So tons of stats. More stats than you can ever imagine, really. So lots of great stuff there. $10 a month for the most popular option for DFS, which would be that MMA Premium. It comes with all that. It's like $2.50 a week. So really does help support me and also helps you guys out as well. So check that out. The link will be in the description. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys can leave a like, subscribe if you have not yet, would be very appreciated as always. And good luck on UFC Vegas 24.